Thank you so much to our two wonderful guests. I'm starstruck, so work with me. This is an effort to pull the world together so that wherever she is, wherever I am, wherever she is, wherever you are, we are together, fighting for the same cause and moving forward together. So, I want to start with you, Reese. You've done wonderful work in your time, not just with the start of Me Too. You were already an activist in your own right. What have you learned from the Time's Up experience? Something that you can share with men and women in this house and all over the world, because this is being streamed globally.
Thank you. First of all, what an honor to be here with all of you. This is very emotional for me. I'm truly honored to see all of you and hear your activism for all women across the world. I have a company in Los Angeles that I started 7 years ago to put women at the center of stories, because I noticed not as many women were getting to be the leads in movies. And then this year, we discovered through incredible reporting through the New York Times and several other journalistic establishments that there has been rampant sexual harassment and abuse within our industry, including myself. When I was 16 years old, I was assaulted by a director on a movie. And I think one of the things I understood was a condition of my employment and the opportunities that I had was silence. And with the revelation that so many women had been assaulted, discriminated against, and generally told to be quiet for fear of losing opportunity and their job, we decided we were all going to come together. So it started out in October, 40 women in a room just talking about this is a problem and how are we going to deal with it? Because enough is enough and time is up. We are no longer going to be harassed. We are no longer going to be mistreated or discriminated against or paid less money. We are going to create more opportunities for each other. But as an extension of that, we decided we wanted to reach out to other communities, and we didn't know how to do that. And that is when we got the beautiful letter from Monica Ramirez that was on behalf of the farm workers, who said, we see you, we hear you, we know you're in Hollywood and your lives are different, but we are all the same because we are women and we are workers. And women everywhere who are workers have to link arms and stand together. And that was a huge catalyst for us. So we wrote a letter in response back to Monica, and that's how the Time's Up movement started.
So, as you can see, we are completing the circle. In the next few days, starting from Monday, there will be more than 4,000 women in New York, my guests, for 10 days, 10 hardworking days. And our focus will be on the empowering of women and girls who live in rural areas. There will be a lot said about Me Too. The circle is becoming finished. At the end of that session, we will come with conclusions, actions, and activities that the delegates from all the countries of the world will take back for implementation. And women, activists, feminists, young people will also use the lessons they've learned here to go and implement, and the circles gets bigger and bigger. Danai, my dear sister, you know, I'm going to take my chances here. She's from Zimbabwe, I'm from South Africa. I mean, practically same place, same hood.
When you guys are nice to us.
You represent, in your real life, as well as on screen, with Black Panther, courage, power, integrity, as General Okoye. In our work here in the United Nations, we try to bring more women into the security forces. We want more women to be peacekeepers. Right now, we only have 3% of women as peacekeepers. And we do not have enough women in the armies and the security forces of countries to provide the pipeline. We all know that if there were more women in the security forces, in peacekeeping, we will keep the peace. We will prevent the conflict, and there would be no violation of women as it sometimes happens. So for us who work in the Women in Peace and Security, we adored you because you reminded us of who we want to be in the women, peace, and security space. But also, I also know that you are an author. You've written about the women of Liberia and what they did to bring about peace in their countries. How can we in real life learn from the experience of this general that we see on screen? Has it occurred to you that we could use your experience there to help us address these issues in real life?
Well, firstly, wow. And thank you. It is an honor to be here. I've attended a few events in this building, and they're always very enriching and very powerful to be around folks on the ground who are doing the real work at a real level, eye to eye with the issues every day, every minute. So thank you for your courage, for your work. And you know, we see you, and we choose to see you more and more, and that's what coming together like this means to me. To answer that question is to say really that, you know, of course, the issue at the core, and I think what resonates a great deal about Wakanda and the world that it brought to the world, was it brought a world that, go figure, women and men work shoulder to shoulder, and their abilities are equally valued in a society. And that, I think, it brought so much response and attention, because it is astounding that we're not there yet, but we're not. So that actually caused a massive splash, because we so rarely see such a representation. Almost never, people have said, as I've gone across the world and been interviewed by various press, they have always been astounded by that image. And a lot of young people I've seen, boys and girls, I've heard about boys saying to girls, saying as they sit in the theater, someone wrote, they said, a boy said, I didn't know women could be generals. I didn't know a lady could be a general. And the idea of that representation being something that we see, you know, sometimes it's like, okay, Hollywood, but storytelling to me has always been something very resonant. It brings about an image that we don't get to see often. And there's something about putting a story on a mega screen that I think can resonate in a way that can actually be constructive. Because the precedent that's set is like, why don't we do that? Why aren't there more women in positions like that in the world? And you can see, I mean, I was very thankful to be handed such a character, because she had nobility, and she put her country's needs and sovereignty first, and the needs of her people, in a sense of keeping them safe and protected, and keeping them outside of realms of, you know, as a Zimbabwean, you know, I grew up on the continent, and, you know, we see the components of, some Zimbabweans in the house? We are everywhere. Hey, guys. You see some components of how, you know, we're in nations, they're very young nations, and the idea of kept stepping out of the brutality and the assault and the legacy of colonization, and stepping into our own identity, self-determined and very clearly paved by ourselves, has been plagued often by very, very troublesome leadership. And so we've seen a lot of coups d'etats. We've seen a lot of unstable governances, which obviously always result in oppression and assault and attacks on the protections of women and girls. So we've seen that over and over and over again. And the thing that we've seen in a very clear form break the back of that has been when women take the helm. And we've seen that we saw that in Liberia very clearly. And of course, Liberia, that story is very close to my heart because, as was mentioned, my play Eclipsed, I went there, I sat in the presence of these women whom I'd never heard about till I got there. And that's another massive problem, is what stories do we amplify? I never heard of the Liberian peace women till I got there. I was here in the United States researching Liberia for years. I knew everything about Charles Taylor. But what did I know about Sugars Cooper? What did I know about Lema Gbowie? What did I know about the women on the ground working, stepping in front of loaded guns and saying, "Stop it. Take care of our nation. Think about our children and our children's children." So, to be honest with you, that's where I drew strength from as I formed Okoye. I drew strength from those women. I drew strength from the women in my history, even of Zimbabwe, Mbuya Nahanda, who stood up to the assault that was happening to her nation back in the 1890s. But there are women who have stood up, but they don't get amplified. So if there's one thing I would love for Okoye to remind us of, it's that those women already exist. Are we giving them voice? Are we giving them platform? Are we amplifying them? And are we encouraging other women and girls to know that they can step into those positions and they will be supported as they do so? That's what I hope resonates from Okoye.
Thank you very much. You will be glad to know that UN Women works shoulder to shoulder with those women. Many people in this room who are our partners, member states, have been there, and we continue to support the Peace Hearts. But more is needed for those women's dreams to be fulfilled, because those women also have dreams. They need a break. I'm going to come back to you, Reese, and talk about Time's Up a little bit. Everybody here talks about the time is now, the tipping point, the pendulum must swing. There's a sense of urgency and a need to go forward. Here in this room are people who make laws, who set global standards, who support their countries to make all of us have the quality of life. In not all cases, but in some cases, they succeed, and we want more success. How could we make sure that as a result of Time's Up, we actually begin this trend of going forward in a sustained trajectory that will make sure that women are ahead, perpetrators are brought to book, and women are protected from assault and any form of discrimination? How could we take this potent moment, this movement, and make it part of the work that these people here do? And vice versa. How can these people also be part of the work that you do?
Yes, that's an excellent question. To speak a little bit more about what Time's Up is, as we formed the organization and it became hundreds and hundreds of women across the country, it was important for us to not just sort of talk about or admire problems of gender inequity and pay disparity. We decided that first and foremost, we needed to help our sisters who were being harassed in the workplace. So we established the Time's Up Legal Defense Fund with the National Women's Law Center, and in 10 days we raised $20 million. It was incredible. To help, at this point, we've helped 1,500 women with on-the-job harassment suits against their employers. Some of these are class action suits. It's been incredible, the need, but it just shows you how many more people are going to need this service and these services. We've also partnered with some global organizations, and at the BAFTAs this year, which is the British Academy Awards, money was raised for the UK Justice and Equality Fund under the Time's Up label. So I think we're talking about globally, how can we affect change by creating safer work environments and having the companies we work for and the governments that represent us understand that we are not going away and we're not going to be quiet. We want to see ourselves represented 50-50 as soon as possible, as soon as we can make that possible, because women are 50% of the population. We deserve 50% of the representation, 50% of the salaries. We will no longer continue to do work without being paid properly for it. And that's a big part of what this organization is doing. And I'm very proud to work with companies like Elizabeth Arden, who is giving $1 million to the UN Women's Fund today. Because they care about their customers. And I think that many corporations can take a page out of their book to see what are their customers care about. They care about women's rights globally, and they want to lift up their sisters. Because until we take care of what Monica was saying, the last girl in the corner who doesn't have a voice or an opportunity, we're not really doing the work that we need to be doing. So we must remember that little girl, and we're going to make this world a better place for her.
Thank you. Thank you, Reese. So, Danai, you are a writer, an activist, a thought leader, a superhero. What are you not, actually?
Can't cook.
Sitting between the two of you and all the wonderful things that you do really fills us with courage, I mean the older people, to see that in your generation you've come this far and are moving forward. My question to you is your thoughts about how we could support women who live with violence in remote and isolated area through the work that people like you do. Is there a connection that you see that could be of support to those women and girls?
That's a question I constantly ask and I'm constantly navigating. I think it's an evolving thing that people must convict themselves about consistently. There's never one place where you settle and you say, well, I've done that. It's a constant motion. And you know, when I was in, the times I've done research around women and girls issues, because everything I write is about trying to give voice to those who have been denied a platform to be heard and be seen in their full humanity. I'm amazed by how, though people talk about invisibility and things like that, when I've sat in the presence, for instance, in Liberia, when I sat in the presence of women and girls who had gone through things that I couldn't even begin to imagine, and they sat down with me and wanted to share their stories, they would tell me, firstly, there was never one who wasn't willing to be heard. They all wanted to be heard. And secondly, they all, almost entirely all of them, in fact, said to me, no one had ever asked. No one had ever asked them what had happened to them. No one had ever asked what they'd gone through or what they wanted next. And that really got me. And at the time, I was an extremely broke playwright who was there because I'd had done a rent party. And a friend said he'd match whatever I made, and that helped me pay my New York rent and get on that plane. But now I'm in a different position. So I have to go back, and I have to meet those girls again face to face. So I convict myself on that, and to answer your question, as much as I can answer it right now, it's about that circle closing very much, because those girls have the potential and the power and the desire and the resilience, what the women and girls have made it through thus far in the world, shows us very clearly women are the more powerful sex, okay? Because I cannot believe the things I've heard women say they've been through, and they still keep going day by day and handle their business and take care of their children and invest in their communities and stand up and make things better for people around them. So what we need to do more and more, to myself and others, I say, how do we close that circle? How do we make sure we are empowering each other? How do we make sure we go and look at that girl in the eye? She could be, you know, the next woman who makes a difference. She could be the next Oprah. She could be the next Michelle. She could be, who could she be? But if we don't get up and do something practical, very practical in our various positions of power, and we all possess them in various ways, she might not reach her greatness and her potential. So that's something I'm speaking to myself. Please trust. It's about how we make sure those girls and women are not there, that their potential is not left on the floor. And it's about how each one of us can do that very specifically. I know it feels overwhelming. It does, but there are ways that we can take a bite out of it, each one of us, and figure out, how do I empower that one girl, or those 3 girls, or those 5 girls? How do I connect with the leaders who are already on the ground, which is another major thing. It's like how there are so many courageous, stunningly courageous women on the ground right now doing amazing work. I've met an amazing woman from the Congo doing stunning work around what's happening to women constantly in that country, in that nation. Constantly they are going through unspeakable things, and she speaks out, and her life is threatened constantly. But she does things that allow, every day she opens her door and there are 15 women there who need her, and who she stands up for and makes sure her life gets better, who she fights for in the justice system of the Congo so that these men are held accountable. Who can we connect to? I try to remain very connected to her. I keep a picture of her on my mirror in my bedroom in Los Angeles, so that every day I wake up, I see her face. Who can we connect to in a way that is that person-to-person thing that allows each one of us, and I have to say this more to my own colleagues on the ground in Los Angeles and in New York and wherever we are, where we have power as people of Hollywood, where we're given these huge platforms and we're compensated well. How do we use that to make sure that those girls and those women and those leaders, that's where the answer is. It's in the bosom of those women in the Congo, in Syria, in Liberia. It's in their bosom. That's where all of our answers are, quite honestly. That's where we need to go. So I convict myself, and I encourage you all to do the same, as I know you are. Thank you.
Thank you. That's sisterhood. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you. 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 Ladies and gentlemen, excellencies, I want to thank you for this session and thank our 2 guests for inspiring us. Reese, connecting with farm workers and making a difference. Danai, going back to Liberia and being there for those women. The circle is completed. You can count on us to be with you when you make those choices and those decisions. We are committing to work with you every step of the way because this is what we exist to do. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you. And Reese, thank you for your courage in telling your story and helping lead this charge in this movement. And Danai, superhero, inside and out. I mean, both of you guys are just incredible women. Let me just chat with both of you really quick. You inspired so many women here today and across the globe. It's so important. There, can you hear me now? Okay. Both of you inspired so many women here and across the globe. Your words were real today. And I see you getting emotional, Reese. This means something. This is a pivotal moment.
Yeah, it just means so much to hear Danai speak so beautifully from her heart and to lift up the women that are doing the work across this world. Just meeting incredible activists in the past 3 months who are working with domestic workers, farm workers, restaurant workers, the people in hotels and all over the country and all over the globe is just incredibly inspiring because they do it every day. They wake up every day.
Every day.
Yeah, just to help another woman out, and it's amazing. So thank you so much for the work that you do.
And we need our collective strength on this issue. Danai, you can see your courage. We can feel your truth. What do you want to see happen next in terms of this movement? What needs to happen besides just the talk? What do we need to see?
It's all about action. It really is, and it's about really, you know, there's I try to do this thing every month with this thing called Love Our Girls. It's just really about bringing awareness to all these organizations out here. You know, the astounding work that Reese has started, utilizing the power of Hollywood to these causes, the astounding work that's being done by these amazing activists in the room, what's happening across the world right now in northern Nigeria, what's happening here in the United States. All of those things, you know, the astounding work, it needs amplification. People have platforms, everybody. There's social media. You know, I see everyone wants to post something. Everyone wants a picture they want to post, you know. But what are we posting about?
Right.
There's some real heroes out there, sheroes, that we need to post about daily. Let the world know them, popularize them, you know, turn them into the next, you know, craze, the next hashtag, make their faces as well known as everybody else's. You know, we can do that. We actually have the power to do that now with social media. So there's something in that as well. We amplify, and hold ourselves accountable to connect directly.
Wonderful. Okay, Reese, the world is watching. What do you want women to do tomorrow, the day after International Women's Day? What can they do to help lead this fight?
I think just make a pledge that you're not going to stop until things have changed in this world. And we're not going to stop, and we're not going to be quiet, and we're going to stand up for the woman next to us because everybody can do something. Do what you can with what you have, where you are. Help the woman next to you.
And to the men out there,
we need them.
Yes. We do, and they need this too. This disbalance is not healthy for either side of the gender. You know, it's a disbalance that it leaves us all sick. It leaves us all unhealthy. It leaves us all unwhole. And so I do encourage the men, and there's so many who are already coming forward, and I love that. We're thankful for that. As I was growing up, I always wondered, you know, because I was a loudmouth kid that always wanted to ask these questions, but I always wondered why I didn't see many men stand up towards these issues and speak out about how they could tell a man was being unjust towards other women, or they could tell an issue didn't make sense about how women were being treated as compared to them. And I'm thankful now that I'm seeing that change happen. I'm seeing men start to stand up. But we need so many more of you to stand up, to speak to one another. Men often listen to each other a lot more sometimes than they listen to women. We need those who get it to speak and to change the minds of each other and to tolerate zero. Not in the locker room, not in the bar. Don't tolerate any of it. Stand up every minute because you could be saving a woman from a really unjust situation.
Stand up. Well, ladies, thank you so much. They deserve a round of applause. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
Making a difference, making an impact.